This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is sponsored by The Fire Store. Learn more about getting the gear you need at prices you can afford by visiting thefirestore.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Zam and Janelle. I will be your host. I am a fire lieutenant. I'm also a writer for Fire Rescue One. I'm also the owner of firerescuefitness.com, which I've never really mentioned before, so I do that as well. But I'm not alone on this podcast. I have the commander is now. I've given you that title, Janelle Fasquette, the commander, the brainchild of this whole podcast, is with me. How you doing, Janelle?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to reflecting on the year.
It is a reflection podcast episode. We are Sans guest, so that means you and I have to step up our game for. Well, at least I have to step up my game for once. What a great year! Holy cow, man! Over 50 episodes. We've had, I believe, some of the best and most prominent people within the fire service. And I just want to start a little bit like, I'm sure a lot of people are like, how in the hell does this guy get this role? And who is this Zamzow character? And how, what is the relationship here? And so I thought, let's just start this episode. Um, First of all, I believe we've kind of created this following of misfit firefighters, or they feel like they're misfit firefighters, and I freaking love it because you read sometimes on the internet, and I try not to do it too much, but people in the fire service and firefighters, there's a lot of really dedicated individuals that are trying to make themselves better, and I believe we're the majority. But we like to kind of say, well, the fire service needs to step up and really, you know start to focus on improving every single day. We need to wake up and improve our health, and we need to look outside of the fire service to figure out ways that we can develop and be better. And I think we feel like misfits. I believe we're in the majority, and so I think you actually kind of came up with that, and I'm running with it. I love that idea, and you've probably been thinking Zam has been a misfit since I've known him for about 15 years. Just from the standpoint of I feel like every day is a blessing because I've worked some really, really crappy jobs before I found the fire service. I didn't get involved full time until I was 36. I was 30 years old when I started as a volunteer. And I started writing for you, I believe, right around, you know, that time. We worked on different periodicals at that time, and you became my editor and met me and have encouraged me along the way. And then one day you came to me and you said, what?
Want to do a podcast?
And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And elaborate a little bit. How did that whole thing go?
Well, we were thinking about the podcast for Fire Rescue One and really what we were looking for. And I just kept thinking of the idea of energy. Like, we just need energy. And who has more energy than you? You're like the energizer firefighter, and you're so positive. You always have such a great outlook on everything. You're excited to learn, you're excited to advance yourself in every aspect of your life. And we've known each other forever and worked in a lot of different capacities together on workout videos and articles and just so much stuff. And you always put 100% into everything you do. And when kind of formulating this idea for a new podcast for Fire Rescue One, I just like kept thinking of you. You kept like appearing in my head of like the person who just like, because you just have so much enthusiasm for meeting new people and talking to people as well. And I mean, I've been at shows with you where you're running around like an energizer bunny, just like talking to everybody, and it's now become like a joke because now I'm like practically your wrangler, right? It's like, come on, Aaron, we got to get to the next place. But you're having like this crazy in-depth conversation with somebody, like solving all of the fire services problems, just because you bumped into somebody on the show floor or wherever it is. And that's just kind of embodies you. And I'm just so excited you said yes. And and here we are, and it's just been such a fun ride.
Well, I appreciate that, and yes, for those listening, I did have to pay her $40 to say all that. My crew, I'll be, full disclosure, I'm not positive all the time. I try to be. There are times, just like everybody else, I work a shift, and with crew and everything, I try to be positive. And that's one thing I'm actually working on for next year. I have to put myself in other people's shoes, namely like, administration and other people around me sometimes, but I try to be. I'm a work in progress. So I appreciate that. I mean, like I said, I just have this greater appreciation for the opportunity of being a firefighter and serving the public, and it doesn't come natural to me. So I think it's kind of flipped a switch where I really have to work at it, and it kind of just matches my personality. We were just had Chief Goldfeder on, and him and I kind of bonded a little bit because we're both kind of attention deficit. He had what 11 different pagers going on, and he fidgets like I do, and he's constantly got 4 or 5 different projects that he's working on, which he does for Lexipol and Fire Rescue One, kind of like I do, and and that's we're kind of kindred spirits that way, which makes it difficult sometimes to focus, and that's why you're really good for me and the program because you help keep me kind of wrangled in. But then the program allows me just to go off and talk to people, which I'm not. And we talked about this on our previous. It doesn't come. I guess I don't think about it. It doesn't come naturally. It's trying to just connect, and I like to take conversations personal in a way, like how can I make myself a little bit better, from the knowledge that this person has in front of me or the story that they have. And so I hope that's what comes out in the podcast. We've had some good feedback as far as it seems to. It's pretty genuine. Um,
Well, and I
unf-
just want to say real quick that it's funny you say that because, of course, from an outsider perspective, I think anyone would watch this and think, oh, he's a natural and this does come easy to him. But even when we had Jason Patton on, who everybody knows is like just this, he's so charismatic, the firefighter influencer that he is. I mean, he said the same thing that like it didn't come easy to him speaking in public or, being sort of a celebrity, if you will. When it started, he told that hilarious story about the CPR class and how he basically had to just like walk out of the room because he was so nervous. And I think that's a big thing for both of us on this show is like going outside our comfort zones, like it says above of both of us.
right, right.
And for the record, I was not like the original plan was not for me to be on the podcast as well. So that took a little bit of nudging and encouragement from you, and my supervisor as well. I just had this vision of Zam running the show. I've been behind the scenes on previous podcasts and other things, producing and helping, but so this has been a big growing experience for me as well. Outcoming, you know, pushing myself a little bit, getting outside my comfort zone, and just trying to remember that even people like you and Jason Patton were once nervous doing these kinds of things.
Yeah. God, I love it because of that. Like, I know that you're reaching out, I'm trying to reach out, but that's also been the theme for a lot of our guests who have said, "Hey, I don't like I have to dedicate time." Frank Lieb, who was just on, he's written a book this year. He just said he just has to sit down and dedicate his time for it. I think that's kind of the theme with all of us is that it doesn't come easy, but we're a bunch of misfits and we're not alone, and that's kind of hopefully grows with people as we continue on this. I have to chuckle because when you first proposed, he's like you said, well, we were gonna do like I think it was like one every couple weeks, and then we did our first 2 episodes, and I think your supervisor said, "You guys are on every week now," and we went, "What? Oh, okay." And at first, we were scrambling, like, how do we get guests and what do we talk about? And now here we are, 50 some into it, and we have a list of guests that are growing, and I couldn't thank you enough. I It's been a great journey. I'm excited to talk about it a little bit and recap it. It is the holidays. It's the end of the year, so it's a time where we kind of reflect and then look forward to and set some goals for the following year. I like I said, I couldn't. I went through all the list of guests that we had. And I went, oh my god, that's holy cow! Yeah, we did talk to that individual. We talked to that individual. So
Mhm.
what a fun, strange trip it's been, and can't. I can't. I'm super excited. I can't even say in words how excited I am for this following year. Um, what were your highlights? What did you like out of all of the different podcasts? What stands out?
Oh my gosh. Well, like you said, just the diversity of guests has been pretty amazing looking back at that list. Um, I mean, the one that jumps out to me just as a standalone, I guess, if you will, is the episode with Ben Vernon
Mm,
because he had such an intense story. That was our first two-part episode, but his experience, and he's so passionate and so he has such a great message about something, good that came out of darkness and helping folks after his incident where he was injured on the job. And we showed video of it, and we hadn't done that before. And that one very much stands out, just in terms of like kind of a shocking, eye-opening podcast that we've done. But there's so many good ones.
what I don't, and what people probably don't know, like I honestly, I try not to get too much on the inside kind of stuff. Like I want to know, but I don't want to know. Like I don't know our top five. What are our top five?
Oh, well, I mentioned one of them earlier. So, Jason Patton's episode, I don't
Okay.
think that'll surprise anyone. That was a great episode. He's fun, and I think we met his
We
dog
met his dog on that,
on that
but
episode as well.
the biggest thing I took away from that was, and to reiterate what you said, is that even though it seems like it's coming comfortably, it takes work. It's you know, you don't know what the other person is experiencing. So it even though they make it look easy, they still may have anxiety. They still may really have to practice to get to that. And I think that was a really cool eye-opening thing that he shared with us, and
Yeah.
I can relate to that, very much so, and I think you can as well.
Yes, absolutely. Gordon Graham, our very own Lexipol co-founder, he was one of our most popular episodes. He also provided one of my favorite bloopers that I don't think is appropriate to show or share on this, but he is pretty hilarious.
Let me
Not pretty hilarious.
summarize.
He's insanely hilarious.
Yeah, can I summarize that part? S
Sure.
So Gordon, who is, he's kinda like a boss, right? Like, he's bigwig here, and he started Lexipol and this great kind of family that we have. So I was a little nervous, and then the first thing he said, he's like, "Hey, I don't have much time. I got another appointment." I think he had 60 minutes scheduled, and we start talking behind the scenes and just about just life in general, and he's such a dynamic storyteller. Well, finally, Janelle says, "Zam, push play. We need to get this out on the air." And the first thing I do is I mess up. I know, most people are like, "Yeah, well, we can
Shocker.
imagine." Shocker. And Gordon and Gordon's like, "Where the hell did you get this beep guy? He's beep and beep." And of course he's joking, but the soundbite for that, maybe someday it'll surface. And
Well,
we
what
just
was what was so funny about it is he pretended like he was on mute talking to his wife. Like,
yeah, and it wasn't on mute.
the bleep is this
Uh,
guy like looking over his
yeah.
shoulder, pretending, but all in good spirits and good
Yeah.
fun. And
Well,
he's just
the
such a
thing that
great storyteller.
he is, and the thing that made me feel really great was he said, "I don't whoever I'm staying on this. This is worth my time. This is great. You guys, let's keep doing this." So he kind of rescheduled his other appointment. He stayed on extra, and just even behind the scenes, he was giving us some great encouraging marks. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Um, and I from him, I just remember how important it is to connect with people, and you just never know where that connection would be. And if you don't take these small, minor opportunities, you may miss out really in something really major. And he mentioned that him and Billy Goldfeder started the secret list just based off these minor kind of connections and conversations, and it led to this big thing. So that's what I think, the lesson learned there is, even though you may not understand what that person in front of you brings as far as value, sometimes you have to dig, but there's always something. And
Yeah.
and I think that was huge, and it's something that he emphasized, as
Yeah.
well as gave us some great entertainment.
Yes, there's a lot of great entertainment. I did love his story about how he always takes a walk on the beach. It's like his favorite thing to do. And in true Gordon fashion, he likes to talk to people and he just meets people on the beach. And he told this story about meeting somebody with just an amazing backstory. And it's
Mhm.
like if he hadn't just stopped and talked to this person for that moment, he would have never had this connection. And I think that's easily applied to all of us in our lives in so many different capacities. Sometimes we just have to like pause and consider the opportunities in front of us because you never know when something really small or something seemingly minor could turn into something pretty amazing.
Well, and you don't know how you can impact that person too.
Yeah.
I think in today's society, in today's day and age, at least in the fire service, there's so much that we are experiencing from a stress standpoint, and I think that connection is something that hopefully has been emphasized through our podcasts, and that people are at least trying a little bit more to connect. COVID made it really easy for us to not and to ignore conversations and to, you know, uh, well, I didn't want to see that person because of COVID, or, well, I think those connections and those efforts need to continue or need to be rekindled.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Corden was really supportive of that topic and
Yeah.
idea.
Absolutely. Well, another one in our top five is Dr. Reggie Freeman. There's a lot of good stuff here. I just think of leadership when I think about his podcast and just so many good lessons learned and lessons that, for all levels of leadership, I should say, like
Mhm.
not just the fire chief, but really everybody. What was your takeaway from that one?
Well, thanks to Reggie, I'm back at school going for my master's.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. I actually was on the cusp of signing up. I'm like, do I really need it? And then during the program, he said, yeah, do it. He's like, what do you have to learn by what do you have to lose by learning? And so I did. I signed up, and I'm almost halfway through in a year.
Congrats.
Thank you. Columbia Southern University, by the way. Hopefully, someone from them is listening, so they can help with some tuition
What's your
reimbursement.
degree?
Yeah, I'm actually going for entrepreneurship.
Very
And
cool.
talking to Reggie behind the scenes, he said, "Look, fire is great. It's great to learn fire." He said, "Honestly, it can get a little bit boring." And he said, "If there's something out there that you think you can apply to the fire service and being a better leader or being better at your role, then do it." And I think with entrepreneurship, part of the thing I think that's missing maybe with leadership in the fire service is marketing your leadership, which is
Mhm.
talking about the stories and connecting. And so entrepreneurship is about managing data, managing connections and relationships so far, and then of course obviously developing ideas and streamlining and making processes more efficient. Well,
Yeah,
it really connects with what we are trying to do or should be doing within the fire service. So I'm back at
yeah,
school, and yeah, I took his conversation to heart. So hopefully we get this back to him, and he connects with us again. We I think we said right away we try to have him on, so maybe that's something we can do in this next
yeah,
year is
yeah,
follow up.
absolutely. Well, the next one is Chief Josh Waldo out of Bozeman, Montana. For me personally, I just think of the Montana formal wear jokes, but I'm
It
sure
was
you
a
have to.
tuxedo. I had my,
Yeah,
my Montana my Montana tuxedo jacket on, which was I don't even know, it was like a
I'm sure there should be a deeper takeaway for me. What about for you? What do you remember from that one?
well, Josh and I go back, quite far, and we always just have these great kind of intense conversations about mainly about self-improvement first, and then that kinda leads into other topics. So, just so Josh and I are doing we signed up to do a Spartan race in Montana in June
Oh, nice.
to try to push each other and challenge each other. And so we are kind of, when we connect, we just try to check in that way. Um, I think when you look at, leadership and you look at just personal development, Josh has kind of gone through a lot. He at one point, and I don't know if he really shared his whole story, but there was one point where his health had gone south, and I think over the course of a couple of bad calls, he just really felt like he was that um, that weak link,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where we connected on the fitness and wellness side, and then of course our conversations now carry into how that transfers to just being a better leader and being a better firefighter.
Yeah,
So great, kind of, I don't know, just in-depth conversation about personal development is what I remember with Josh, of
yeah.
course.
I definitely remember his story about feeling like he was the weak link and not being the impetus to get in shape and get healthier because he didn't want to put his crew through needing to rescue him essentially. Um, but yeah, and for the record, when I was saying earlier, talking about wrangling you, um, I was really thinking of channeling this experience at FDIC where we ran into Josh on, and that was the conversation I was referring to, where the two of you were like just instantly talking a mile a minute, solving the fire service problems. And it was like, we've got an appointment we've got to be at, Sam.
Oh,
Come on, let's go. But it was so interesting. And I just thought, why have I not been recording this conversation? Like, this is amazing. This is the kind of stuff we need to be talking about all the time. But man, the two of you, it's just like an energy explosion. So that was that was a good one.
yeah, your wrangling experience at FDIC resulted in blisters in your feet, so I think you
Yes.
learned a lesson there, trying
I
to just
I made the ultimate conference mistake. I can't even believe I've been going to FDIC and other shows for like 20 years, and for some reason thought a new pair of shoes would be the ticket. It's like the number one thing you don't do. You don't buy
yeah,
a new pair of shoes.
especially just trying to, follow me, I guess, around. I mean, we were
Oh yeah.
bouncing
No,
around
I
a lot
also
of
have
different
to,
things.
train for a marathon before the next time we
I
go
didn't
anywhere
go that far, but yes.
together. Yeah. So okay. So rounding out, we actually have a tie for the last one, which is Dr. Rochelle Zemlock, again of Lexipol, a psychologist who works with us here, um, and Dr. Candace Ashby, Italian Chief Ashby out of Indianapolis. So there was some good stuff. Totally different conversations, but both of those were very popular. When I think of Rochelle, she is just so amazing to work with, and I love how she just breaks down stuff into such easy to understand, simple to follow basics when you're thinking about, fire service, behavioral health, mental health, relationships. She's an expert with, families and connections, and she just had some really great insights for us about, it's a hard job to have and keep in touch with your loved ones at home, and kind of how to, and she knows firsthand because she is married to a firefighter, so
Fire
she
captain,
lives
I
it.
believe, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
so
yes,
she
she
Doctor yeah,
knows.
Doctor Z reminds me of Forrest Gump's mom, where she just talks in a language that I could always understand. But I really believe that there's a lot of validity and value to that from the standpoint of, um, we're kind of thick-headed sometimes in the fire service, and a lot of things we think don't really pertain to us. And to have that outside, expertise saying, "Oh yeah, it does," because A, I study it, and B, I see it. And
Yeah.
so, and then when I talk to other, people who are in relationships with firefighters, and they tell me the same thing, that's where the expertise comes in, and hopefully we're gonna try to make podcast history with her, where she's gonna take me through an actual session, mental health, just a
Yeah.
regular counseling session, which I probably need.
Yeah, you're breaking some news here. It's the scoop for First Responder Wellness Week in March. Erin's gonna be on the fire service, the proverbial psychologist couch, and we're gonna talk a little bit about what that experience is like working with a psychologist and trying to better mental health.
Yeah, yeah, improve that. So I'm excited. Stay tuned for more with Dr. Z and Zam, I guess, which sounds like a really bad children's book, but um, and then you have Candace Ashby, who I we talked for hours with her, and we had so many different highlights because she is just as real as it gets, and the stories, and her story in particular, what she had to go through. I mean, everything from, being a female who was pregnant, having like what people making stories up about her, to, you know, being shunned in some situations because she was a female, to now being where she is now, a leader, and really kind of just speaking about, hey, that those experiences, let's try to make sure that those don't continue. And but she just did it in this great, you know, it was a raw eloquence. How about that? I think,
Ooh.
that was probably a pretty good summary. And if someone is listening to this and you have a better way to describe, that episode, I mean, please comment. But I thought you cannot get more real than her. You cannot get more. I think she was right on in a lot of her topics, and she was just a great person to talk to, and learn about her story.
Yeah, she really summed up. Well, Billy Goldfeder, he will say, brotherhood my ass, like when he's talking about the fire service lack of support. It's like this, sarcastic. And she was kind of channeling some of that, the same thing, where it's just like, what do we do? What are we doing to each other? Like, we eat our young. We're just, we got to cut out, excuse my language, the backstabby bullshit, and just return or find a way to support each other
Yeah,
instead
yeah.
of, cutting each other down. Um, that was that was an important message.
Yeah, be more human. And for those that, if you haven't listened to those, please go back to our podcast page, and I highly recommend listening to them and any one of the 50 other ones that we've had. And I think some of them that we just recorded too probably haven't gotten the numbers in the following yet, but they will be in our top 5. And on the Better Every Shift podcast page at Fire Rescue One, you'll see some of our more trending podcasts down below. I think they're in categories.
Hmm.
Um, well,
Yeah, and
speaking of
I'll
speaking of
include some of that in the show notes too.
okay, but speaking of top 5, it is the holidays, and we were talking behind the scenes, and I have to just, this is going to spur a lot of conversation. We were talking about what's on like the firehouses, like what are the holiday movies, with
Oh
top
yeah.
5 like holiday movies at the firehouse, and of course everybody talks about Die Hard. Is that a holiday movie? And I I think it fell in the top 5 because there wasn't another, because there wasn't really 5 that were really super good to, at least to watch in the firehouse, like Miracle on 34th, whatever. That's great movie, but it's not, it's too serious for the firehouse, right?
Yeah.
But there are some new holiday movies out there that I've been watching or that have appeared. Of course, number 1 I think is gonna be Elf. Have you watched Elf
You
yet? Have you
okay,
watched Elf yet?
okay, I know. I'm sorry I've not seen all of Elf. I've seen most of Elf. I know
Okay.
this is a point of contention for us. I'm
Yeah.
like gonna be written off the podcast if I don't see Elf by the end of the year. But I've seen it. I completely understand why you love it so much because I'm pretty sure Buddy is like your spirit animal. Like, you're
Buddy Buddy and Tigger together, I think, is probably
Oh, yeah, that's frightening kind of to think about, but yes, that amount of energy, yeah, all the questions, just go, go, go. I'm like, "Oh, this is Aaron. I'm watching Aaron."
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm
And I'm not always this energetic. Like, a lot of people who know me are like, he's a jerk. I don't see him that way." But, um, like I
but
said,
I
I'm a little
will, I promise. I will
okay,
watch.
so Elf
Yeah.
is probably one of the more popular ones right now. Another one is Office Christmas Party, which I love. Have you watched that with Jason Bateman?
Office Christmas Party,
Yeah,
no.
it's got,
That's a movie?
Olivia Munn in
Mun.
it, and, so anyways, they throw a big office Christmas party, gets a little out of hand, but it saves the company, and I think a lot of, like, firehouse Christmas parties would probably be like, "Oh boy," yeah.
Well, what about Christmas Vacation? I mean,
Yes,
that's gotta be
I think that's gotta be 1 or 2.
yeah,
Just depends on your crew and what they kind of, are about, I think. So those I would say Christmas Vacation, of course, and, Elf are probably 1 or 2. This Office Christmas Party is starting to gain popularity, I think.
yeah.
Of
I
course,
Well, I have to just share really quickly. So my husband and I have this tradition of exchanging ornaments every Christmas, and this year my husband bought me an ornament that's the RV from Christmas Vacation.
oh,
Randy
yeah.
Quaid's
Yeah.
RV. It's so great. I love it.
Don't go fall in love with it though, Clark. It's gonna come back with us next month when we leave here.
You're very good with the quotes. I'm
Yeah.
terrible with the quotes, but yeah, it's a good one.
So Christmas Vacation, how
Mhm.
dare I not kinda list that one first? My parents are now probably a little disappointed in me. One year, actually, my sister-in-law bought the elk, like, cups, the cocktail mugs with the ears
Yeah,
on it,
yeah,
and I think we get them out every year, of course, with the
that's awesome.
family. Um, Christmas Story, I think, though, like, Christmas Story is good the closer you get to Christmas. To me, that's when you'll start to see it. I think, like,
Yeah, now that
TBS plays
Christmas
it.
is past, it's like, is anyone still watching it?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I could watch it any day of the week. I love A Christmas Story. It's just makes me think of being at home with my family when I was younger. Like, we always just had it on in the background. And the dad is just so funny. Just like all of
I
his
th
like profanities, like weaving a tapestry of profanity that hangs somewhere over Lake Michigan, or oh,
Yes.
I just love it.
Well, the leg lamp and then, of course, the battles with the furnace, I think,
Yeah.
we can all if we've ever had a dad who, who's tried to fix things on their own, which a lot of people in the fire service probably can relate, to that type of, father and that type of experience. So, yeah, I would say that's top 5 for sure. Die Hard, again, we talked about that. That's always is that a Christmas movie? Is it not? I think so because it's action, it's Christmas, it's holidays, it's a I shouldn't say it's a good story. It has a better ending. So that of course is Trading Places, the old Eddie Murphy movie is that,
Oh,
Christmas
yeah.
story, Christmas film, Christmas related film. I mean, and hey, anybody please comment with below or you know, you can send us a message. If you send me a message with this, I'm okay with that because that means you're listening, and that's all I really care about. And that starts the conversation because that might lead into many other conversations. Of course, you got Polar Express, and you got what am I missing there? Oh,
Grinch?
Rudolph.
The
Rudolph.
Rudolph, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that one you don't watch after Christmas, though.
yeah,
You know, Elf, yeah, you'd find me sneaking Elf every once in a while. Christmas Vacation, Die Hard, you watch. Trading Places, you would watch.
yeah.
Um, but I don't think you watch, Christmas Story, Rudolph, Home Alone. I think that's up to Christmas, and then
I
that's
don't know,
it.
I feel like Home Alone is, like, randomly on TV throughout the year, so
That could
I
be
could watch Home Alone anytime. There's some good stuff there.
okay. Well, I mean, so we were just talking a little tangent for those that are, of course, listening, we started with our top 5 podcasts. We go into relative, top 5 for what we're watching in firehouses. If we missed one of those, if we missed anything that should be on that list for, next year or future podcasts, please let us know. You can email us at betterevershift@firerescue1.com. And then let's see what else we wanted to talk about a little bit about. Um, Speaking of top 5 or top things, the top articles on Fire Rescue One this year, which of course you are the editor in chief for, award winning, I believe. Did we not win another award? Or you did not win another award this year?
We've won some awards this year. Won some awards.
The Fire Store, equipping protectors with passion. Every decision we make as a company is about you, our customer. We wouldn't be where we are today without you, and we don't take that lightly. We understand that having the right gear can mean the difference between life and death. Our goal is to get you the gear you need, when you need it, at prices you can afford. Visit us at thefirestore.com for everything but the truck, and shop our family of brands, including Streamlight, MSA, Lion, Fleer, and more. Now let's get back to the show.
What did you win for best?
Well, there was a best one-off for our What Firefighters Want survey project, which was very exciting. More on that coming soon. Keep watching for those survey questions. They're coming.
For next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Survey is coming soon. So
Okay.
watch your inboxes, folks.
And for those like you, that's your big project. I remember we were doing some podcasts just about that, and I believe it's such an imperative, kind of integral part about the fire service now, because we learned some pretty interesting stuff. I will
Mhm.
tell you that the biggest thing that kind of stood out to me was recruitment. Right? Like we're losing people in the fire service for the first time in a long time. Um, Mental health, is and stress is just to a point where people are looking out there saying, "Is this worth it? Is it not worth it?" And I think that hasn't ever been the case here in the fire service. And I think one of the biggest things that kind of brought light to, hey, you got members of the fire service, they're stressed out, they're overworked, they're looking for some support and leadership, and that was another big topic. And then, now with the job market, they can look down the road and they can see a different job and that's available for them. For the first time in a long time, people are actually considering it. They're considering leaving the fire service. And I don't have the data exactly on hand. I don't know if you remember what the number was. 47%?
There was
Something like that.
Well, there were about 46%, I think, of people who said that they were considering leaving their fire department, and 42% said they were considering leaving the fire service altogether due to their stress levels, or the least satisfying aspect of their job. But I think, yeah, that's one of the biggest things that we've seen in recent years is, and I don't want to, I don't mean to take us down a discussion of generational differences or anything like that, but younger members, newer members tend to not necessarily see this as like a lifelong career. They join the fire service because they want to join the fire service at that moment, but maybe they'll stay, maybe they won't.
Mhm.
Um, and so when there's potentially more attractive options elsewhere, that's what's people are actually leaving. People didn't leave before.
No,
you know.
no. And I think that brings up a great kind of topic of conversation, and again, we've had these themes through a lot of the different podcast episodes, and one is that the first thing everybody wants to do is point their finger at the younger generation. They want to say, look, they're not as dedicated. They're soft is another way that people have described it. But we also have to think about, and this again, as I started the program, something I'm trying to do more of is put myself in their shoes. They're in a position where, when I first got in the fire service 15 plus years ago, once you got in, you stayed because there wasn't opportunities down the road, because the job market was a lot more competitive, number one. And once you got in, and so was actually getting into the fire service. But now the job market has changed. Of course, you have a lot of baby boomers have retired. There's a lot more availability for jobs. And, you can't necessarily blame them for at least looking and saying, hey,
Oh, yeah, no.
for the standpoint of my family, I can get paid the same amount, work, 8 to 12 to 20 hours less, and be home every night, and support my family a little bit better. So we didn't have maybe that luxury before, which is, something that we have to look in the mirror and go, well, that also produced some people within the fire service who just became complacent. We allowed that, right? There's people that wanted to get out, they had no way out, so they just kind of said, well, I'll just stay in here as long as I can, and I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to do, and I
Yeah,
um and it- and I just think it just brings forth something that we at least need to be aware of, number one, and have conversations, talk about this a little bit. I always laugh because they say, well, the the younger generation doesn't like to own homes. Well, have you looked at the market? They can't afford to. You know, so
it's not that they don't wanna.
yeah, it's not that they don't want to. So I think also it's not that they don't want to join the fire service, is that we have to market the fire service to them a little bit better. And
Yeah.
we can't just open the door and say, come on in. We
Mhm.
have to pursue them like other businesses have to. We have to accommodate our own with making some maybe changes to policies and making some changes to culture on wellness. And if,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this going, this guy he's not a true firefighter. He's not a true brother or sister. I would beg to differ. Number one, and number two, I'm also the one who gets to have these great conversations with people and listen to what's really going on out there.
Yep.
Um, so I think that survey brought to light a lot of different things that we need to try to get better at. And that's
Yeah.
what the emphasis is on the podcast. So thank you for doing that. Excited for what you are going to focus on for next year. And of course we can broadcast those results here again, which excited.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just add that, the survey, there's so much good stuff that we've actually changed how we're approaching the What Firefighters Want survey going forward, where instead of it just being this once a year rollout of the results, we're going to basically roll out information all year long because there's so much more in the data that we just couldn't even get to just in a one-time launch with a digital edition and a podcast and a webinar and all these things. So we're just going to like chip away. I mean, we're still going to do all those things I just mentioned, but we're just going to, keep digging into the data because there's so much interesting stuff there. It's so valuable. People keep asking for more of it. So we're going to keep going with it. And related to 2024, we're focusing on one of the big themes that came out of 2023. Actually, we're going to zero in more on poor agency leadership. That was something that was flagged by many people who took the survey as a concern, one of the least satisfying parts of the job. They saw poor agency leadership at their departments. Now, that being said, I do want to say, just to counter some of the what we were just talking about, the fire service is still, I mean, the people who respond to the survey still in the free text responses, best job in the world. It's like the most common response of all of them. Even when they're upset about stuff and they're noting what could be better, people are still saying best job in the world
Yeah. You
and
know, and that
recommending
bring
it still.
and that's something that I guess this is where if somebody says, "Zam, you're not a true brother or sister," or this, you're not. This is where I beg to differ. Look, if bring forth these topics, and I'm very fortunate, thanks to you and the people here at Fire Rescue One, to have a platform where I can. I think that talking about these things and seeing the results, to me, it fills my heart with optimism, because what this shows me is that people love their job, right? Best job in the world, but we can make it better. And we don't
Exactly.
have to stand by and watch as stuff goes to crap around us.
Mhm.
We can make it better. We can make a bigger impact. We can serve our members better in a
Mhm.
time when now crisis is all around us. And to me, I'm super excited. Like, even within my own department, and sometimes I go down that toilet bowl, as I like to say, as I like start to, I'm like, damn it, just you got to be more positive. You got to look at, things from another angle. And, uh, but the basis behind some of the conversations is that people have this passion to make things better.
Mhm.
And to me, that is the essence of where we're going. We have strong leaders in certain situations. We have places where we need to improve, not just in leadership, but I think personally, like, we can all look in the mirror and go, all right, what can I bring to the table to make my organization, my crew, and my service better? And then
Yeah.
how can that transfer to the fire service in general? And I think that, to me, is the cool part about the survey, about the conversations we've had, about even the comments we've gotten here, um,
Yeah.
on the podcast. So to me, some people are looking at this going, well, people are just complaining and they're being too critical. And I'm like, nah, you know what? You could go down that path, but I think you can also look at it like that's because people think and know we can make a difference, a better difference. So to me, I'm excited about, talking
Yeah.
about these things.
Well, and considering leaving the job is different than actually leaving the job. I mean, who hasn't had the moment where they're like so frustrated, they're thinking about leaving their job, right? It's it's human nature. It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
But they still love it. They want to make it better, you know? They're working from within to try and make it better. And part of that is sharing their feedback. And, you know, if we can play a small role in that just by helping spread the word, so fire chiefs and other leaders can learn and make some changes to keep folks happy, like that would be fantastic. I
We're
hope
the band
people
of
are learning.
misfits, man. We're the misfits that are finally able to talk.
There's a
Well, and you
lot
think
of
about it
people.
too. I mean, the fire service has changed. I mean, it used to be, son, you just did this because that's what I said. I was raised with a father that said, Aaron, come here, and you go, okay, and they say, do this, and you wouldn't question it.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, the older I got and the wiser I got, the more I questioned it. And then when he asked me to hold the flashlight, I would just do this the whole time. So he never asked me again. He still picks on me to that this day. He'll probably be laughing when he hears. But right, like, things have changed. You now have more knowledge in your front pocket than you ever did, than we ever did. My generation growing up did. So I think that's one of the changes is that uh, you need more reasoning and rationale behind why you're doing things. And then if you're questioned on it, you can't get defensive. You have to at least
Yeah.
meet someone halfway on that. And then that can make everybody better, but we have to accept it. And we have to, obviously learn how to communicate better. And I just think these are great challenges that we can not easily, we can overcome, and that people have a passion to really do. So,
Yeah.
excited. But, thank you for all your work on that. I think that's one of the top articles I would say that I read on Fire Rescue One and was able to be a part of with some of the podcasts that we did.
Yeah.
So, what's
Well,
what
and
are
we just posted just real quick, Chief Reggie Freeman, who we mentioned earlier, he wrote one of the articles. It was called "Are We at a It's the fire service at a tipping point?" Basically talking about everything we just talked about
Mhm.
and why and that article, so that was in the digital edition that came out in August, but we just posted it as an individual article on the site. And I think had like 400 comments on Facebook, and it just blew up. It went viral. It was one of the most popular articles of the whole year. Just right away. It was so popular because people are really interested in this topic and invested in it. They want to make the fire service better. They acknowledge that there are issues, but it's very complicated. Um, but that was, it was great to see the conversation really flourishing. Obviously, sometimes social media can be You never know where the comments are gonna go, but there were a lot
Yeah.
of very constructive, very smart comments, about it. So we just wanna keep that conversation going,
And I think that
however
fits
we can.
really well with one of our guests, Dina Ali. She had an article. I remember she said, "Be a not knower," right? The power of
Mhm.
leading with humility. And I believe that's the second part of this is because the fire service is changing, because even our environment, I think, right? We had how many different we had a couple different podcasts on lithium ion batteries, and like they are, you can't keep up with that education. You can't keep up with all the different things that are changing in the environment around us
Yeah.
that affect our day-to-day operations. So you need to, I believe, going back to what Dina Ali said, is you got to admit sometimes I don't know everything, and I'm working diligently to be the best I can be, and that's what I want everyone else to do. And together, then we can provide a more safer environment. But when you don't start with that humility, that puts everyone on the defensive, and it puts, I think sometimes it even puts learning to a halt
Yeah.
because, you know, well, that's just what they said, so that's the way it's got to be. And I just don't think that is the catalyst for growth. And those two articles, I think, really show that as well. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. And, just what, 2 weeks ago, we had, the FSRI, uh, Adam Burrowy on the show with Billy Goldfeder talking about lithium-ion batteries and the new campaign. And even the FSRI researchers, like, these are the experts in this, and they are saying, "We don't have all the answers. That's what we're working on." They're not trying to pretend like they've got it all figured out, right?
Hmm.
But they have ideas, they have a toolkit to help, like they're doing what they can. But yeah, I think that it comes back to what you're saying about humility, right? It's like if even the experts can acknowledge that when they don't have all the answers, certainly the rest of us can. And we can admit that we're all works in progress all the time. There's no end point, there's no finished, there's no I know everything. I've hit, you know, we just
Yeah.
got to keep going, got to
I'm a
keep
walking
growing.
book of policy and guidelines, and I know
Yeah,
them all,
right?
but they got to be updated every second. It seems like every week
Right.
almost. Which of course then that goes back to challenges for leadership. So obviously that's their challenge as well as trying to communicate that down through to the front line. But then I think the front line also has to have that patience and and then support leadership. But that I think that's maybe where the disconnect is. If leadership pretends not to admit when they mess up or when they don't know it all, then the front line people are like, okay, how do I make connections with that? Where do I go with that? I think that's sometimes where the
Yeah.
frustration, and that comes back to communication. And we've harped on that quite a bit, but that's that's a lot of the themes that have come up through the year.
Well,
All
and
right,
it
one more
trickles
article.
down to like all the different levels of leadership because we're not just talking about fire chiefs. Like one of the most popular articles of the whole year was this piece by Dan Jones, 9 conversations every company officer should have with a rookie firefighter. I mean, that just starts, you want to create the right foundation, right, for your new members. Set the tone for what they can expect. Talk to them, learn who they are, learn how they learn so you can better train them. And like I said earlier, I'll put all this in the show notes, but it just shows how, like, you got to hit this at every single level.
Yeah, and if you're, and one thing I've had conversations with officers, because had a growing year for myself, being put in a different position. Even though like I maybe wasn't asked those questions, I read over them, and it really helped me reflect.
Yeah.
Like okay, where would I would say, how would I answer these questions? And in that way, I think you can make a connection and build trust amongst your new member of your crew or new employee. And so great resources, great articles. You said you'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah.
And God, we covered a lot. We covered is Die Hard a Christmas movie? What are the top Christmas movies? What are our top podcasts? What did we learn? What are the top articles? What else do you got for us on this final episode of the year? Kind of
Yeah.
what do you got for the Misfit Nation?
Well, we could play a quick game of who said it if you'd like.
All
I've
right.
got a few good
Oh
quotes for
man,
you.
I did so
I'll
bad
go
last
quick.
time. All
I'll
right.
go quick. These are good ones. And then we'll wrap up with some resolutions. Okay, who said, "I love feelings. I just don't trust them."
I love feelings. I just don't trust them. Um,
It was a
gosh.
very existential conversation. Um, we learned a lot of new terms on this podcast, a lot of psychology
Uh, oh, uh,
terms.
Derek.
Derek
Yes,
Edwards, Dr. Derek
yes,
Edwards.
Dr. Edwards, man. Shoot, we didn't talk much about him. How great was that interview, too?
Oh my gosh, the white bear. Don't think about a white bear, Aaron.
Don't think about that white bear. God
Don't think
darn.
about the white
You
bear.
wanna know something funny is I said that to my crew the next day. I said, "Yeah, whatever it is, had this great conversation, but just don't think about a white bear." And as we pull into the station, people go, "Isn't that a polar bear?" I'm like, "You gotcha." Yes.
But why are you thinking about a white bear, Aaron? Like that's what Derek
That's
said to you.
that's
You
right, and
asked
I
him.
would tell people, "Go listen to the podcast."
Yeah. All right. Who said I will never go to enough fires to satisfy my appetite to go to fires?
Well, Chief Goldfeder just said that when we mentioned about, his 11 pagers that he has on and
It
CAD
was a little
system, but,
different. Wasn't
uh,
Billy.
yeah, that was off camera. So,
Will never
um,
satisfy my appetite to go to fires.
well, it sounds like a Lieb thing, but, um,
Ding 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 ding.
yes, boom.
Chief Lieb. The yeah, he was our first second time guest. He joined us for our 1 year anniversary
Yep, he's a
episode
two-timer.
earlier this month. Um, all right, who said we can sniff out a fraud in a heartbeat?
Oh, boy. Is that Joe
He's
Minogue?
nope, nope. And he was like, I knew it. I knew it. You remember that? He pointed at the
Oh,
camera.
is that
I knew it.
Fennessy?
Yeah.
Fennessy? Is that Chief
Yep.
Fennessy?
Chief Brian
Yes.
Fennessy, Orange County, California.
Mm.
Previously of my town, San Diego.
Yeah, yeah. He left your town in good hands, he said,
Oh
and
yeah.
then
Oh yeah.
has done a very good job there in, Orange County.
Yes. All right. Who said I'm going to change this department if it kills me?
Oh, that is one of it is the NVFC Fire Chief of the Year?
The
Am I right?
IAFC,
IAFC. Oh,
the volunteer chief of the year.
yes, I'm sorry, IAFC
Yes.
Volunteer Chief of the Year.
Chief Tom Bell.
Yep, Chief
You're
Bell.
there. You're there.
I knew it. I could picture the moment. I couldn't picture all the,
He had a
you know
great story because, he came in after this like legacy chief before him who had literally been in the job for like 60 years, which
yeah,
wow, that's intense. So to come in and obviously have a lot of people saying, kind of rooted firmly in how things had been for a very long time. Um, and he was like, the previous chief did a great job, but there are changes that need to be made. So that was a good one.
yeah. I think
Um,
that's what we're going through in the fire service in general. I think a lot of people
mhm,
can learn from that lesson from the standpoint
yeah,
of, it's the old guard having to give it up to the new guard, and there's always some difficulty there. There's always some transition. There's always
yeah,
some, conversations, but I think, um and then, of course, that's where you get this brotherhood, sisterhood, and they're not all in, and,
hmm
and I understand it. Um, I would just say based on what we've seen and heard and conversations we've had is that the fire service is in good hands. and that there really is a passion uh, amongst us to continually improve it and each other,
Yeah.
with it. So that's what I would take away from the year, and I'm excited to build on that for next year. How about
Well,
you?
and
What would
speaking
you
of
take? What's your biggest takeaway?
my biggest takeaway, what from the podcast overall?
Just in summary of what we've learned all this year.
Oh my gosh, I honestly think it's got to be summed up with the quote above me that we referenced earlier. Great things never came from comfort zones, because ain't that the truth?
Yeah,
Um,
right.
Pretty much everything we do in life. So yeah, that I think is very much going to guide me into 2024. So with that in mind, Aaron,
Mm.
what are your I was thinking we could come up with like the best New Year's resolutions for our listeners to consider going into
What?
2024, because we've got a lot of lessons we've learned from the
Hmm.
shows. What do you think?
Well, I have a passion for this because I've worked in the fitness side of things for over 30 years. I actually have a 50-day challenge that I created, and hopefully we can leave a link to it. But it's really about building resilience in general, building these habits that will help us be more resilient, not only physically but mentally, socially. It's it's about just taking these small things and just doing them day in and day out.
Hmm.
One is, and I've actually done this all year. I've read 10 minutes of something every single day on fire. So I've actually finished first like 4 or 5 books other than fitness books this year. I
And that
read
was a
Frank.
Chief Lee
That was
recommendation,
Chief
right?
Leaves. So I
Yeah.
finished his book. I finished a book by Joe DeCina. I'm looking around here. So that was one part of it, and I want to carry that and challenge other people to do that. I also think we need to move more every single day. So exercise, hydrate. Water is so pivotal to every single thing we do. We need to eat more fruits and vegetables. We need to focus on recovery and sleep. We need to also just take a breath every once in a while, because that can change the science of how you respond. It can change you from sympathetic to parasympathetic, which is a way to alleviate stress and help with hormone imbalances that happen due to the different stresses that we have. So, anyways, this challenge is that you choose 7 habits and you just follow them for 50 days, and you don't cheat, you don't alleviate from it, you don't change halfway up, and if you do that, I actually got a coin. I got this whole little thing where I actually will give you a workout program for it. And I'm doing this just with people. It started just with people around me. And then some of the background is you're smiling a little bit because we had this conversation. Hopefully, like Sarah Janke and Dr. Lori and some of our guests will also, and I'm throwing them out there so they have no choice. Do you like how I do that? Do this. And I just call it's something I've been working on for 15 years. And I think it's just a a personal journey, and I just want to bring other people along with me. It's called the Resilient Project, and it's establishing habits this year to help me be more efficient, be a better listener, be a better communicator, be a better first responder, be a better person, and be more healthy and fit. Because if I am more healthy and fit, I know it transfers to all those other avenues. So we'll maybe have some more information or link on that, but and I'm trying to get you into this as
Oh,
well.
I'm on board. I'm gonna join you. I'll be part of it. Absolutely. I think we're gonna talk about it too on an upcoming podcast. Dig
Yeah.
into it a little bit more and what that looks like and kind of how the structure will work, because it's a different kind of program, I think, that than most people have seen before.
Yeah, it's not weight loss, it's not push-up based, it's not burpee based, it's not quinoa, it doesn't
I
it's
hope it's not burpee based. Is that a thing?
but it
Is
no, yeah, well,
anything
I don't know,
burpee based?
yeah, everybody's like, I don't like burpees, by the way, so I wouldn't incorporate them in,
Who
but,
does?
there's the Jack LaLanne, I don't know, The Rock
Jack
probably doesn't either.
LaLanne.
Um Yeah, I'm excited for it because you're right. It is different. It's like, look, all you have to do is you follow your system every single day, and you create your system. And I think it's going to really help a lot of people, and hopefully it'll take off. If anything, you and I'll do it, and some people around us, and that's all that matters. So, um, and part of that though, then is for me to be more efficient with my time to help people in their journeys, to be able to connect with
Mhm.
them. So to answer emails, to answer questions, and just to have a better system to connect with listeners and with, you know, other members of the fire service. So that's my resolution.
I like it.
How about you?
Complete the resilient project. That's gonna
50
be
days.
mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's mine for sure. Do you have a I I used to listen to this podcast actually that talked about a word that defines the year for you. Do you have a word going into 2024 that you think of?
Mm, Gosh. I would just say, you know, just progress, just a continuation. I'm trying to
One word,
I'm
one word.
I know I'm throwing these words out, so I'm hoping that one just, sticks. Um, yeah,
You can
just,
talk it through. You can talk it through.
I think resilient is
Mhm.
just a great word, is because it says, "Hey, just continually deal with things that you have and grow from them and be able to
Yeah,
respond stronger and better the next time." So I'm really stuck on resilient right now with a Z for Zan. No, I'm kidding. It's resilient. But there you go, resilient.
I
What's
like it.
yours?
Well, I can't take resilient now. I'm gonna say outside because I want to get outside more physically, like literally out in the sunshine, doing more stuff, being more active. But I also think it has a double meaning of like the outside the comfort zone
Mm.
thing and just like continuing down that path and kind of expanding my horizon a little bit.
When I think too with that, and this is why I think you're so good for us in the fire service. You're so good for us on this program is right. Being outside means doing different things, being uncomfortable, but with that uncomfort comes self improvement, and then that's contagious, right? Like this whole year, watching you kind of first go, "Oh no, I'm not talking in this," to even we've had conversations off camera about how we continually get you involved. And what a lot of people don't understand is there's a lot of stuff that goes on kind of behind driving this podcast on keeping me on task, which is really, you know, tough as anybody who's ever kind of dealt with me right now. My mom is like going, "Oh my God, you have no idea." Um, but outside means get outside your comfort zone, totally improving. And I think that is a perfect segue into our closing, which is about being better and trying to improve. But before we hit our patented tagline, I have to tell everyone that if you're listening to this program, you can also watch us. You can rate and review us. You can watch us on the Fire Rescue One YouTube channel. You can email us bettereveryshift at firerescue1.com. If you like what you hear, if you want to hear more of a certain topic, please let us know. This is really it's a show for all of us misfits, and we need to hear from you. Please rate, review the show, and you can also go to Fire Rescue One. You can look at, and I think all of our different episodes are listed there, as well as our top episodes, and that comes to the final sign off or send off of the year. Janelle is trying to get outside of her comfort zone, get outside to exercise, all with the intention of improving myself, trying to be more resilient, trying to put myself in other people's shoes with the intention of just being a better responder, better person. And that's what we're really all about here. We're all about learning something, doing something, and sharing something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for listening. Look forward to next year.
Happy New Year, everyone.